Hello everyone and welcome to the Lisa Burke Show, where each week my guests from Luxembourg or more internationally bring us their wisdom on a whole range of topics. I hope you've all had a wonderful week wherever you're listening from. Now this week my guests include Liselotte Lyngsø, who is a futurist, founding partner of Future Navigator, joining us from Copenhagen. We have architect Carole Schmit and Kenny Graham, CEO of Tomorrow Street. So welcome to all of my guests.
Hello.
Hi.
It's great to have you joining us. But as always, we're starting with Sasha Kehoe, who is newsreader from The Sam Steen Show. Always lovely to see you, Sasha.
Oh, it's lovely to be here again on a Friday.
On a Friday, but it's the start of your weekend, and a slight lie-in for you because I know you have such early starts to your morning.
Yeah, especially now. It's dark and it's cold.
Dark.
At 5:30.
Oh, I think of you. I do when I see the alarm clock go. A little bit later than that for me, but I know what it's like to do early shifts, and it's very painful in winter months. So the week's news, what's been happening this week in the week's news? I suppose we have to start with that high level news, and then we'll
Yes, I think it's been a heavy week in Ukraine, as I'm sure everybody knows. It started off last weekend with the explosions on this bridge connecting Crimea and Russia, which was blamed on Ukrainian Secret Service. We're still not quite clear who was actually to blame for it, but obviously Russia and President Putin did major repercussions. They've been bombing Kiev again, which is for the first time, and other Ukrainian cities. First time air attacks since June 26. So I think people in Ukraine felt that in that part of Ukraine, in Lviv, for example, close to the Polish border, felt that might not happen again for a while. But
they've moved back a bit, and
we've moved back totally. And the rhetoric is getting increasingly aggressive on both sides, I'd say. We've had a NATO meeting this week with NATO defence ministers promising jamming equipment to the Ukrainians, saying, the EU yesterday were like, do not threaten us with tactical nuclear missiles. We will annihilate the Russian army. So the rhetoric is really going up again this week. So
it's really awful when we hear the word nuclear put into any sentence in this
scary,
situation. It
it
becomes to get very worrying indeed. And we have so much in other media actually about other nuclear stories. I mean, there's a podcast called The Bomb at the moment, actually, for instance, and it brings back that period of time and that history, and the fact that a lot of the scientists, even though they were developing it, they didn't ever want it to be used in that way, not at all. So, oh goodness, yeah.
And on the other side of the world, you've got North Korea testing warheads and cruise missiles capable of carrying nuclear weapons. So I think generally we've kind of seemed to have gone back in time, where the word nuclear, I mean, we grew up with the word, that sort of nuclear threat around, but I think it had kind of gone on a back burner, and we're back, and I think people are quite scared.
It's very sad because I think we grew up in a time where we felt things were getting better. And right now, in so many countries around us, things really don't feel like they're getting better. And of course, we have the cost of living crisis as well. And that's been brought up in the Luxembourg news. Not only the Luxembourg news, of course, but that's a major question. Not in part, of course, it's caused by the war. We have this complete oil crisis and natural gas crisis as well. So the cost of living and supplies is rocketing, and all sorts is going on with the markets, etc. So it's rather unpleasant.
It's a bit of a gloomy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, even in Luxembourg, I was amazed to read this story of a single woman who'd had her gas and electricity cut off because she hadn't paid the bills. And this I think has caused major upset in a country as rich as Luxembourg, and in a country where the government is rolling out support. They've put their energy price cap, etc. And there was a promise that no one would actually have their heating cut off.
Yes,
but it did happen, and it was only when a political party went back to the energy supplier and said, "What are you doing? This is illegal," that they have turned it back on. But I suspect it is happening, and even in Luxembourg, people are unable to pay pay their bills anymore.
As they increase, yeah, absolutely. Moving to something completely different, outside of the realm of Earth, asteroids.
Well, this is a great story, isn't it?
Oh, yes, I love it.
So NASA confirmed that they've managed to hit an asteroid off course. And, this was an experiment that they
had planned it for quite a while. Very planned indeed.
But it does mean in future that any asteroids, I guess, heading to Earth could be steered off.
Well, there's two parts to it. The first thing is they have to detect them coming towards the Earth. They have to be able to kind of see them. And then the second part is they have to be able to try and hit them and deflect them. And they are able to do it.
Well, we now know that they can do it.
They can, which is amazing.
Take a photograph.
Oh, yes, of course. You have to
before they did it. This is amazing, isn't it?
Before
the Hubble telescope, they did it. And this is what the asteroid looks like.
I know. Isn't it wonderful? I think it's fabulous. I also love this story that you have here about spy extradition. Who knew what we were hiding here in Luxembourg?
It's a super interesting story, and I'm not sure I will give you the absolutely correct take on it.
I don't know if they have the absolute correct take on it yet.
Exactly. So a Luxembourgish businessman who was living in France was arrested about 6 months ago for being involved in a sort of pyramid scheme crypto scandal in the States. And it seems that all the money lead of this crypto scheme, it was called OneCoin, seemed to go via Luxembourg and somehow involve this businessman called Frank Schneider, who had a company here which allegedly was clearing businesses also for people like the EIB, checking out whether they were companies that they should invest in. So somehow, I don't know how, his company has been involved with this crypto scheme where the woman has disappeared and they've lost $4 billion. So it's a massive court case in the States.
I'm pretty sure there's been a podcast made about this too.
Right, probably. Yeah. And the French court decided that he will be extradited to the States now.
Is this the Crypto Queen podcast?
Yes. So she's a crypto queen and she's disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I listened to that a while back.
Okay. So
amazing how people can disappear, actually.
Yes, in the world. How do they?
I don't know. I
suppose if you have $4 billion,
you can find a way to pay your way out. Actually, from memory, because I listened to a lot of podcasts and books and things, and that was a while ago, I listened to that one. I think she was on a ship somewhere. I think that's a way to hide if you're floating around the waters of the world.
Oh, right. It's interesting.
Who knows? Who knows?
Well, but then the story gets more interesting because it turns out that he's not just a businessman who was involved in this money laundering, but he was a spy for the Luxembourg government.
Yes.
And back in the day, there was this wiretapping scandal in 2013 where the Luxembourg Secret Service were tapping telephones between Grand Duke Henri and the then Prime Minister Juncker about bombings that happened in the 1980s, the Baumelaire affair. And somehow he and two other secret agents were also involved in that. But it did bring down Juncker.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot more to this story.
I think this story
it's really super interesting.
Oh, I'd love to interview him, but that probably won't happen.
I think we might have to go to the States.
Yeah. He's in custody. But, there's layers to it. Like you say, there's so many layers to this. Even, and going back to the Juncker-Henri story, that in itself is extremely fascinating too. But moving to something different again, the University of Luxembourg. We had the Times Higher Education university rankings out this week, and
well, I thought of you because we've had quite a lot of guests from the university, and especially in the world of science and medicine, and it's moved up. It's only 20 years old, the university, which I'm sure you know. It was founded in 2003, and it's gone up from being in the top 300 to the top 250. So it's very much on the up.
Yeah, it's moving up and up.
And I was looking at their offers actually, and there are more and more courses in English, and I'm probably speaking to the
Carole
converted
is a lecturer there.
Oh, are you?
Well, I'm guest professor, and I did launch a new master actually, which wasn't at the university when it was started, in architecture. Indeed, yeah.
Oh,
so,
gosh.
I mean, there are new courses launched. I mean, this university is quite new, so a lot of things do happen. Indeed, at least if you look the speed within which these changes happened, I think it's quite a performance. It is, yeah.
It's just extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, it's moving.
How long universities normally take to get this, to move even one or two places.
They're moving
in the rankings.
fast. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the facilities are amazing. I mean, everything is just brand spanking new and clean and lovely and gorgeous lecture halls. It's a lovely facility. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now we're moving to our final story, which really...
This is obviously the most important story of the week.
This has been a very big story on RTL Today this week, so tell us more.
Fat Bear Week. Might not say
Do you know
anything
about Fat Bear Week?
No.
You don't?
You're about to learn about Fat Bear Week. Yes, yeah.
Yes, it's been an obsession of Meredith's, the lovely lady who wrote the producer on
of the
morning
Sam
show.
Steens show.
And it's a very clever marketing by the National Park in Alaska, who get the public to vote on the fattest bear in their national park. And I think this started off as a small little side interest, but it's really blown up. And so all week we've been looking at pictures of bears thinking, oh, this one's a bit fatter. Oh, I think she's getting... because they've got these live cameras. But there was cheating involved. So you could vote.
Scandalous.
You could vote online, and they detected spam bots that were kind to get a ballot on one particular bear 435, I think.
They're all numbered.
Yes, Meredith will probably
Meredith will know that
yes.
a lot of people are quite into the bear numbering.
Yes. And but in fact, of course, Bear 747 is the champion, and at eating 500 pounds of salmon a day, we just got obsessed. We got obsessed. The numbers of how much they have to eat before they go into
Are you sure it's 500
hibernation.
pounds of salmon a day?
That's what it says.
Oh, well, I have to check that, because Meredith had in the Not the News quiz this morning a question on how much fish they eat in a summer, and I guessed a very high number, and she said no. And so, anyway, I have to check the figures.
Oh well, I could easily be wrong.
No, I'm sure
never
you're
good on
not.
Numbers.
A lot. They eat a lot of fish. Put it this way. They eat a lot
before
of
hibernation. So Bear 747 has won it before, and he's a massive bear. He's 635 kilos apparently. But we were all rooting for a female bear who was a newcomer, and we think is pregnant and has really to put on weight to make sure that she's all right. But anyway, I just love the cheating. Last week we spoke about the cheating in chess, and you're like, nothing is sacred, is it?
It's
not
dreadful.
Even Fat Bear Week.
And I saw a story about cheating in fishing as well.
Yes, there was a big story where they were putting lead into the fish
Balls
to make them heavier.
into the terrible. Oh my goodness, the things that people will do to win random competitions. Not that any of these are random competitions at all, of course.
But they're a bit of fun, aren't they?
Sasha, as always, thank you so much. You're going to stay with us for the show, absolutely, I hope, and listen to all of the things ahead. And so, as always, thank you for everything you've done this week on news, and I wish you a wonderful, restful weekend.
Thank you, Lisa. You too.
The Lisa Burke Show.
And now I have Liselotte joining us. Now, Liselotte, I think I mispronounced your surname. Lyngsø, is that right?
Lyngsø, yeah. In Danish, it's actually Lyngsø, a nightmare to pronounce. Don't worry about it.
Thank you. Well, just to introduce a little bit further, you're going to be here in Luxembourg next Wednesday for the British Chamber of Commerce's Futuristic Leadership Forum on leading towards the success of tomorrow. You're one of the top futurists in the world, and I'm so looking forward to this conversation, because for those people who might not know what you do, I mean, they might be able to guess with the title futurist, but explain, what does a futurist do?
Well, what we do is really, when we've just gone through the news now, and we try to look at transformation. So what is noise and what is actually transformation? So in our media picture this week, it has been all about our queen not wanting to give the younger son kids the name of princes and princesses, and we haven't seen anything but that. And then you have to go to page 3 or 4 to find the future. So that's really the task of a futurist, is to spot which trend are actually having the power to transform the way we think, live, behave. I don't know if you remember, but before the pandemic, we had this video going viral with this guy talking to the news, and his kids came in and the wife came to pick them up. And today we're like, why did we share that? I mean, what's the big deal? So once the future arrives, we don't even think about it. But my job is really to see it beforehand. And what I really hope is to get in Luxembourg decision makers to be able to spot future trends themselves, because we are living in such turbulent times that it's really dangerous just to let our top politicians to create the future. We all really have to get involved. So if we could get it democratized somehow by training everybody to see what is noise and what is transformation and what to do about it, then I'll be so happy.
Well, let's start here. So I'm going to just take us back a little bit. You started this work in 1996, so you've been doing it for a long time. Have things worked out the way you envisaged? Have you predicted things that have happened? What are your successes and what are the things that didn't work out and that surprised you?
Yeah. So starting with the things that did work out. So I guess it worked for me, but it wasn't a good outcome. So already in 96, I was working in the European Commission, the Forward Studies think tank, and we were doing these scenarios for European integration. And in one of the scenarios, we actually predicted Brexit.
Oh my God.
And we did that. We did that because we could see that the UK already then thought, we have our colonies. We don't really want to be on the same team as the Germans, the losers of the Second World War. We have our financial headquarters. And so we were saying, okay, red alert, we have this scenario where we're going to lose the Brits unless we make sure that we create this strong European identity, because right now they're in it for the money. So when we use future scenarios, it's not in order to be right. It's really to create a kind of early warning. So I guess we were right in predicting, but we failed in actually doing anything about it. So and that's so in that sense, it's not a great example. What I do like is when people are empowered to actually see that they can change. The stuff that is going on in Iran right now with women daring to throw off their scarf, I guess that's a huge transforming trend right now in that part of the world. And we will see if it's going to break into other territories as well, like, for instance, fighting for climate, fighting for other things. But we see a kind of activism going on right now, not only in Ukraine, but it's spreading out. So I think that's really a recent trend that I'm following very closely, is this, you can call it the TikTok war, the Insta wars going on right now, where people are communicating with each other and they're interrupting each other's news broadcast in order to help citizens to convey their messages. So we're having these hybrid warfare. So in the old days, war was combated by the military. Right now we have this, I'm just working for the police in Denmark. You have this situation that the government is saying, okay, here is a lot of money for defense, but they don't actually know where to put the money, because what is defense in the future? Is it protecting our gas pipes, or is it the electricity that we need to protect? Is it the Wi-Fi? Do we need drones? Do we need submarine drones to patrol our sub-ocean territory? So it's really interesting from a futurist point of view.
It really is. Again, you've tapped on so many things there. I wanted to bring it back to your mention of the activism in the TikTok, Instagram world, where and you mentioned Iran, of course, and everything that's happening there right now. One of the things that you really care about is the democratization of these choices and thinking about the future and to be involved in our own decision making. So we do live in a world where we can be active. How do you encourage people to be active in a way that helps and doesn't hinder?
I think it's, when I look at the future, I always say interesting, exciting, without being political about it. So I I'm very curious. So for instance, you can deep fake videos right now, which is terrible. I think in Germany there was a woman saying, if I get elected, all cats and dogs should be killed. She was from the Environmental Party, and it wasn't her face, she was being deep faked. So that's terrible. But then I downloaded the app and I realized that's fantastic. I can film myself in the afternoon. And then when I go on RTL, I can put this fake video on, having perfect makeup, perfect hair, without having to make an effort, very early in the morning. So there are many options in this future. But if you immediately go and you get scared, people have a tendency to be double scared compared to what they can get. Without saying interesting, exciting, let me have a look at it, we miss out interesting perspectives. So talking about these women in Iran, I really don't understand why they go on live themselves. What we could do is to deep fake one of the dead girls and allow them to speak again. They are already doing that in Mexico. So you have some journalists who are killed by the mafia and they are being revived.
That's extraordinary.
So we can do extraordinary things.
Yeah.
And I think...
What an impact that would have if you see some poor girl in this case who has died, who's coming back to life and being revived. What a powerful message to the people in power.
Exactly. So we can. So I think it's. We have never had so many interesting options at our disposal. So we really need to interact with it and create it rather than binging, if you like. So if you end up binging, you just watch what everybody else is doing, the hobbies that they are doing, but you don't get involved. So I think that my key message here is really for people to start noticing transformation and then engaging with it.
You mentioned that you're working with the government in Denmark and they've got a lot of money to put towards defence, but what is defence? Cybersecurity, etc. And you're talking about pipelines and everything else that we're seeing in the news right now. So you have to, again, you said you have to spot the transformation versus the noise that's going on at the moment and sort of predict what's going to happen in the future for these very important decisions that have to be made at the highest level. So what's your process? Let's take the example right now that you're working on of defence with this budget that is there to be used. How do you think about studying the trends and the patterns to figure out how it should best be spent, given that we're living in a geopolitical time which is extremely unsteady as well?
Well, okay, it's a great question. It will take me a little bit to explain it, but I'll try. We had the agricultural society, then the industrial society, then the information age. And as I see it, we're moving into this age of precision now. And that means that we're getting an extreme amount of data. We have artificial intelligence and we have quantum computing coming. And that's going to give us some complete new epiphanies. And that will be magnified and accelerated because we are in energy shortage, we are in money shortage. So we have to make sure that whatever we do, give a max investment. So I'll just give you some brief examples. For instance, you were just talking about the university and how is it going. We have data that shows that the most important thing for kids and young people to get higher grades and to do well is the teacher. The teacher is the most important. So if we know that, why don't we, make an impact around that? Or for instance, that if you take your bike to work rather than taking your car, you actually earn the government €2 per kilometer you take your bike, because fewer people will go to hospital, fewer people will create pollution, fewer people will get stress. And that's the sort of calculations we're going to get. So if you look at defense again, where can we actually make an impact? We have moved from, I think, one bank robbery a day to one bank robbery a year. You just heard about OneCoin and the cryptocurrency. That's where a lot of the criminals are earning their money right now. We have a whole cyber attack venue going on. So what is important here is to really understand where should we put our energy and how do we also create it in a dynamic way so we don't pick the winners too early. So for instance, putting all our money into, some very expensive drone that when it is supposed to work 10 years from now. We have some drones that are much smarter.
It's extraordinary. And just going back to the schools and the importance of the teacher, not only that, but let's think about the curriculum. How ready is the curriculum for tomorrow's society?
Again, I think, first of all, we have to learn for the whole life. And if we start looking at data, we're going to shake our heads because the forgetting curve is huge. So when people have a lecture of 45 minutes, they will only remember 2% the next day. So already we are not really understanding how we work as people. So I'm sure we're going to look back at 2022 and shake our heads and think, God, we were so primitive back then. We didn't even understand that people were extremely different from one another. They understood things in very different ways, and they needed completely different actions in order to get motivated. We just treated people in the same way. Luckily, we now see, an increasing understanding of diversity. We have young people who have started to do school hacking. So they leave the established system and they pick together the informations and the skills they need. They start practicing in small groups and they develop amazing things. So I'm very hopeful that we are democratizing the power to create this world, that we are seeing some decentralization of knowledge that we can then act upon, all of us.
When it comes to making choices ourselves, and as we move into this precision age, we have certain people who are really eager to learn all the time and really want to be in control of their choices and their lives. And we have a curve. We have some people who, I think, don't care so much, and they just want to be told what to do. They want an easier life or decisions to be made for them, which I suppose is where a government net comes into play. So how can we think about the whole of society and change behaviours as a whole to improve lives?
When I say precision age, it doesn't mean that it's a tiny area. It actually is using data to create a much more holistic picture, looking around the whole thing. So for instance, if you say, Lisa, I want to work from home 5 days a week, my precision data is going to tell you, or your digital twin, which you're going to have on top of your head, other people who are doing that, sorry to say, they won't be able to onboard young people. They won't be able to get the knowledge they didn't know they couldn't live without. So they're ending up in a huge feedback crisis. So staying at home all the time is really bad for you. So a great example, if you ask a student how they want to live while at university, they all say, I want my own kitchen, I want my own bathroom. But when you see who's getting the higher grades and who's actually hanging on to the university, it's the people who share the kitchen. So I think it's very important to stress that we should not sub-optimize by just listening to our inner driving, but we really have to design around creating communities and caring communities at that.
Oh, that is so fascinating about our society and how we live. I'm actually going to move to Carole now, and I'm quite sure once I've spoken to Carole for a couple of minutes, there'll be so much more overlap here. Carole Schmit is an architect at the Administration des Bâtiments Publics, managing large-scale public projects on behalf of the state of Luxembourg. Was also a guest lecturer at the University of Luxembourg for 4 years and introduced their master in architecture. She founded Polaris Architects, has been nominated, exhibited, published in local and international media, and has been responsible for the Petite Maison at the University of Luxembourg. So I know we didn't talk about it, Liselotte, but of course the way we live, I'm quite sure is something you look at. So Carole, in the field of architecture, what have you seen the trends becoming?
Well, it actually connects very much what we have heard today. I mean, the Petite Maison is a project which tries to create actually community for a certain amount of time on the question of circularity in construction. In 2007, we had a culture capital in Ash already at that time, and there was a huge and very fascinating exhibition which was called All We Need. It was about the question on waste. And at that time, I think the greater population realized that actually all our resources are finite, or most of them at least, and the ones that are renewable need actually finite resources, to be reproduced in a way. So that time it was a moment of understanding that we have actually problem in the way that we are living today, but there were no real kind of solutions provided at that time, at least on the ground. So in 2019, when Ash 22, which opened their calls, I decided to initiate this project of Petite Maison on behalf of the university, actually to test and eventually address possible solutions on circularity.
I should actually say, I mean, most people will know, but Petite Maison means small house.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Yeah. I didn't say that myself, actually. So, yes, sorry, carry on, Carole.
No problem. Well, we called this project Petite Maison because what we did over the time is we developed a small construction. We call it Petite Maison because it's just sitting in front of Maison du Savoir, because as you know, maybe in Belleval, we have a series of buildings which are occupied by the university, and they all are named Maison. Maison du Savoir, Maison de l'Ingénierie. So these are all houses, but very, very big, actually. So this project was kind of also a little joke in addressing that sometimes the scale doesn't really matter so much. So we kind of proposed an experience which is more like a petri dish experience, where we try to see on a very, very small scale what it could mean if we would provide to a community which is composed by very many different people. So we had researchers from research centers such as LIS, we had people from the university, we had students being involved, so institution, Lux Innovation, but also many companies, 40 in total of Luxembourg and the greater region, which all helped in nature actually to make this project happen. And through this experience of very many different people with very different background, but trying actually to make this world a better place through this small experience, and eventually sharing it within their own organizations. Yeah,
and I have actually seen it, and it's wonderful. Of course, we've also had a fairly recent Netflix series on small houses, which many people have watched and enjoyed and thought, my goodness, you can put so much into a small house the way you rearrange it. When it comes to Luxembourg, I was speaking to another broadcaster this morning, and they said their friend had a small house, but there's no regulation in Luxembourg at the moment for this.
For small houses?
Yes.
You mean? I don't exactly understand your question. What type of regulation are you looking for? You mean?
Are you allowed to have a small house on a piece of land?
On a piece of land, yeah. Well, construction is highly regulated indeed, but not only in Luxembourg. I mean, usually in any country, wherever you go, you need to have a permit actually to build anything. Also, even a small house for a garden house, let's say. Usually you can't just build on a construction site whatever you like. You always need to comply to regulations, and these indeed are sometimes formulated in a certain perspective, on the general planning issues of that particular city. So you cannot just do whatever you like. It's not possible. No, indeed, that's correct. Yeah.
You work in a very curious country in a way, Luxembourg, given a finite amount of land,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and wonderful forests as well, which I hope they don't keep cutting down, because I love the forests. And of course, we have a housing crisis here in Luxembourg. What do you think about, when you're designing and you have this architecture company? I mean, what are the things that people come to you with, and what is your overriding thought when you look at Luxembourg as a whole?
Yeah, well, the housing problem in Luxembourg is really a big issue, and it really is directly in relation to the price of the land. So there's a real estate problem actually, where the land is so expensive that actually the houses that we put on top of it, they are just, the value is much less than the ground. And that's a problem, And that's where also the circularity and the resource issue comes in, because if we really do pay respect to the resource that we actually are using, those actually construction is getting much higher today, due also to the energy crisis, of course. So to produce the resources, we need energy. I mean, it's lifting the prices a lot. I mean, concrete should double the price from January on, for instance, just to know. So this is really a huge resource for construction, especially in Luxembourg. So I mean, all the people that would like to construct in future should know that actually this relationship between the land price and the construction on top will change, and maybe for good. Maybe this will be actually a good transformation, even if the transition will be quite painful for many people. unfortunately.
Well, we all wait with bated breath. I dare not even mention the housing crisis in Luxembourg because it's so painful to so many of the international people who come here and really want a home and haven't been lucky enough to buy land 20 years ago or so, when it was still expensive, apparently. Now, you've mentioned a couple of times the circularity in construction. And I know from speaking to a few other people as well, as you said, I think it's about only 3% of things are reused when it comes to deconstructing at the moment. So what moves have you seen to improve that?
Yeah. Well, I think they are. It's completely under construction. I mean, there needs to be a new paradigm in construction being launched, actually, in the industry of construction. So to be sure that all the materials that we bring in the buildings after a certain time, when transformation has to be done, the materials can be extracted, and be reused. So in the older times, it already happened. Formerly, you would have a building, and then a company would come and deconstruct the materials and put them on site, and people would come and buy them actually and rebuild you. So that's how you find stones, sometimes 100 kilometers away from where they have been in the first place. So, and that is something that we have to kind of reinvent. So I think that technology can help us indeed with this transformation on creating data platforms also to provide the necessary insight into what is already there, because the resources that are already in the buildings, it's just not known that what we do have, what can be reused, So this could help, but it's not the only way. I mean, there needs to be a general move in mentality as well, so that people also understand that by reusing old materials, like reusing old clothes in a way, it's not a kind of a drop in terms of society or social wealth. It's just a good way actually to get access to these resources, and that one can do wonderful things with it. And I think today still people like to have white walls, a very clean, under brackets, modern house if they can afford it, and everything is hidden. So we bring in today lots of materials in our houses which are actually not necessary. So we should try to bring in high value materials which can be reused and limit the amount. That's most probably the kind of general message then.
I can see lots of nods from Liselotte on my screen here. I'm sure you've seen this trend as well.
Yeah, I know. I just maybe in terms of the sharing, we have this project with tiny houses in Denmark where old people or one old person is teamed up with one foreigner, and this old person is teaching the foreigner to speak Danish, about Danish culture, and the foreigner lives there for free in return for helping out with shopping, creating a social life, and it's just a match made in heaven, really, and it's all within this tiny housing community. So trying to solve different issues around loneliness and integration. That
story is literally giving me goosebumps. Actually, it's so lovely because, it's the loneliness that's just screaming out at me there, and how to solve that problem as well, a societal problem. And speaking about that, and you both spoke about communities actually, you're also a lecturer, Carole, at the University of Luxembourg. What trends have you seen in architecture? And when I say that, I don't mean just the buildings, but the community setting.
Yeah. Well, in Luxembourg, the community of students that I'm teaching to is very diverse. I mean, it's really great. The people, they come from all the continents. So we have people from Africa, from Northern America, from India, from Asia. I mean, in general, and Europeans as well, from the East, from the West. So this makes a whole bunch of very colorful people. I think the biggest challenge, and which really fascinates me, is to create a common ground of values, to project. And that's really, it's highly interesting, but it's also very, very difficult, because all these people come, they already, in this case, in terms of architecture studies, they already have a bachelor. So they have already been trained in some way, but very often they do not share necessarily common ground. So if we talk about democracy or kind of a social way of thinking eventually, some people just do not know what it means. They come from countries where they are under the dictatorships or kind of very different different political systems. And so how do we combine, and what are actually the right values to be put forward, And that's the big challenge in education at large, but in particular in architecture as well, because it's based, it's embedded in culture, So what I personally try to do in the trends is actually to connect architecture to, the world of the cinema, for instance, or the world of fiction in general. Because architects, they plan, they project things which do not exist yet. So they have to be very skilled into storytelling, into conveying ideas, to kind of federating people from very different backgrounds, That's what I personally try to convey. Yeah.
It's amazing to hear that, and that link to the future, because of course when you're building something, those projects take time in a different way. You're doing what Liselotte does.
Yes, of course. I feel very connected to you. I'm not futurist at all. I really.
But you are a futurist. That's the point.
Anyway,
actually, you are.
Maybe I'm an actor of yours that you would like, to promote. I hope so. I try my best at least.
Absolutely. And I want to now bring in Kenny, who is more on the technical side of things. So just to give everybody an introduction to Kenny Graham has been CEO of Tomorrow Street here in Luxembourg since July 2019. You arrived just before COVID came along, and then you were in hibernation, a bit like the big bears for a while, like all of us. So Tomorrow Street, for anyone who doesn't know, is a joint venture between Vodafone Group, a global telecoms business, and Technoport Luxembourg's technology business incubator. It's focused on attracting innovative young tech companies and tech talent to Luxembourg and scaling up their technology across Vodafone's ecosystem. So Kenny, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
I'm looking forward to listening to your accent, so hopefully people can learn where you're from, because it's one of those beautiful, luscious, lyrical accents from where precisely?
Near Glasgow in Scotland. So and the accent hasn't changed at all over the years. I've not lived there for quite a long time, but maybe a little bit slower, just to make sure people can understand me.
I can tell that you're speaking slowly.
I am indeed.
Well, Kenny, it's great to have you here, and I want you to tell us all about the Arch Summit, which is coming up here in 2 weeks' time.
It is. In fact, 2 weeks today, we'll just be recovering after a couple of amazing days. So Arch Summit is it's a tech event that brings together people from the corporate world, from the startup, scale-up world, from government and investors to engage in technology themes and explore new business opportunities. So it's going to be an exciting couple of days.
Tell us some of the speakers that you have on board.
Yeah, so we've got three stages of content, and then we've got a lot of exhibitions. We'll get to that in a moment. But some of the speakers we have, first of all, from Luxembourg, we have Minister Fayot, who's, of course, the Minister of Economy and Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, which we're really excited about. We have the Group CEO of Vodafone. Vodafone, for those not familiar, is a big global business operating in over 20 markets around the world. So delighted that the Group CEO is going to be coming and talking about Vodafone's purpose, which we're really excited about. We have, just stop me when you get bored of this, Lisa, but we also have Sophia Kiani, who's a young climate activist and the youngest member of the UN's Youth Climate Organisation. We have Rana El-Kailubi, who is an AI thought leader. Also wrote the book Girl Decoded, which was about her journey from being a young Egyptian woman to being a CEO of a tech company. So she's going to be fascinating. We have Patricia Athu. She's a really established, strong leader in Africa. So she'll be talking about how she's helped improve lives through her business world and personally as well. And then our other big guest speaker is Greg Williams, who's the editor-in-chief of Wired, a big tech magazine. So yeah, we're really excited to have them all join us.
Well, when you thought I was getting bored, I was actually just writing down a word. I was writing down the word purpose, which connects with what you said, Carole, which is that when you're thinking about architecture, you find this federation between the students, a common ground of values. And I love hearing this because it's really making me think that, in such diverse lines of work, you're actually bringing it right down to how do people think, how do people live, what do they want from life, and the purpose, of course, which is so important for everybody in their working lives. Now, you are also, as part of Tomorrow Street, you're dealing with people who are thinking about the future all the time. So to bring back in Liselotte's work here, how do you do that? How do you think about what's going to work in the future?
It's a process. One, you gotta set a strategy. You gotta understand the trends, the themes that are going on. I work to advance technologies in Vodafone. I work to attract young companies to Luxembourg as well. So really for us as a business, we understand what are the big strategic priorities for Vodafone, what are the big strategic priorities, technology strategic priorities for Luxembourg, and then we aim to attract companies that we think can address those priorities. So,
but let's just put Vodafone aside as an example of a great big telecoms company. When a company of that ilk, of that size, is thinking about the future and which innovative companies to onboard, you're always taking a gamble, but a calculated strategic gamble as to, we think this will work because. Where does that because come from? Where are you finding that data?
So if I can come back to purpose for a second, because it kind of starts there. I mean, for Vodafone, for many big corporates, right?
any big company,
you have to have purpose now. You have to have purpose if you really want to add value in the world, and also if you want to recruit people. The people are deciding where they work now on the value of those companies. So it all starts with purpose. And I'm very fortunate. Our shareholders are Minister of Economy through Technopor and Vodafone. Both are ambitious shareholders, if you like, but their values are very similar. So, for example, just coming back to Arch for a second, there's 3 key themes. One is around digital society, another is inclusion, and another is planet. So it starts there, right? So if you really want to advance digital society, you need to think about the technologies that can do that. If you really want to help people access technologies that they don't have access to today, you need to find the right technologies and companies that can do that. If you really want to save the planet, you got to go out there and find the right technology. So it actually starts with purpose. Then you set your technology strategies, and then you go hunt down the best young companies or big companies that can address those.
Well, I love now we've got to the crux of it. That is the answer I was looking for.
Okay, good.
Or one that actually let's put it a different way. It resonates with me. That answer resonates with me much more than other things. And I think that's what you're saying, and I see that with younger people. We say that a lot. As I advance in my years, as we all do, we have no choice yet. Time doesn't walk backwards. We think about younger people coming up, and they all seem to be very driven by purpose. And I want to come back to you, Liselotte. Have you seen that in the way that you've worked with the younger generations coming up to be future leaders, future adults, future decision makers? Have you seen that they're all driven more by purpose than paycheck?
I must say we have been in a situation where there's been a huge talent shortage, and we've been at the very top of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs with self-actualization, the great reflection, the great resignation, silent quitting. Unfortunately, the future is not looking as glamorous. We have a recession looming, and people have stopped hiring. The construction business has stopped. The housing market has stopped. So, beggars can't always be choosers, unfortunately. What we can hope that is this sense of purpose, of meaning, it's going to stay within them, and they will stay passionate, and they will stay insisting on a brighter future, both for their generation and the next generation. But it will be harder.
Yeah. It's sad, but I can see that it's
true. Should I say something more cheerful?
No. I mean, it's best to be honest. I mean, the thing with your type of work and anybody's type of work is that we don't have a choice in the situation of the time that we're born into, and for all sorts of reasons that are outside of our control.
I want to say a happy thing. And that, I think, and that comes back to our last presenter, because he was talking about the technology, and something that I'm really looking at there is, who is actually coding, who is programming? Do they sit on the power of society? If they do, they're good news, because that is being democratized as we speak. So very soon, you and we can ask for programs. I want a program that has to do this and that. So it's not only going to be the technical guys who can do it, we can all do it. And I'm sure that's going to explode creativity. So there are really interesting creative technological platforms coming. For instance, DALL-E as well is really interesting in terms of design and housing, that you can start saying, oh, I want a house in this color, and it should be a little bit like this artist, and please give me some suggestions. So you don't have to be the best person at drawing any longer, or you don't have to be the most creative person. By posing the good questions, to what sort of society you want, you will actually be given so much inspiration. So hopefully at that point we will see some really nice developments.
Well, thank you for bringing it back to technology, and you've asked a question that's so close to my heart, posing the good questions, because I think if we can at least develop ourselves or our children or to ask good questions, that's really at the heart of everything. Kenny, you were about to say something.
No, I was just smiling because one of the partners that we are soon to be onboarding in Tomorrow Street does exactly what Lisa was talking about, right? So it's a piece of technology that allows a doctor or anyone to think, I need an app that can do this, and it helps them create an app in a very easy way. So I'm smiling because they're set to come to Luxembourg and be part of the Luxembourg ecosystem. So that's why I was smiling away as Lisa was talking.
Futurist,
Yeah. Everybody is in a different way, and you live in a space, Kenny, where you're thinking about digital society all the time.
Yeah.
What have you observed? You've been with Vodafone a long time. What have you observed, and the changes you've observed in that career?
Yeah, I have been a long time, despite my youthful looks.
Yes, you look very young.
It's been a long time. In the early days when I was there, it was about connectivity, right? You start with making sure everyone has access to be able to communicate. But really, I've been fortunate that as I came into Tomorrow Street, Again, come back to Vodafone, looking at being able to offer a whole new set of digital services. So we get the chance to look at different technologies that can help doctors or people in the health industry, can help people who manage supply chains. It can help education. But there's many areas we look at. Cybersecurity, of course, back to the slightly gloomy things we have to face with. It's a little bit frightening what's possible, but you've got technology out there that can help make companies safe and help people feel safe. And so we're lucky we get to look at all these different technologies, as I said, that either help advance the way we live or protect us and protect our businesses.
And as Liselotte said, there's a talent shortage as well.
Yeah.
Do you see that in the industry coming up? Do you see, tell us who you do see, who is coming in with these younger innovative companies that you onboard?
In terms of the types of companies that you...
In terms of the people, let me throw out an idea. Yeah. Are they mostly male?
Yes. Yes, right. Which is something I'm going to come back to Arch Summit. You can't.
I know you mentioned lots of women,
exactly.
and
So
I know you mentioned lots of women,
yeah.
But I know also that there's not enough women in the tech world.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And one of our speakers will be Serpo Timirou, who is one of the CEOs in Vodafone. She's going to be talking about that. They have a Change the Face campaign, which is all about having more diversity, more equality in the tech world. So it's a really important initiatives, and they're going to be launching more initiatives at Arch as well on exactly this problem. And
you've got Rana, of course, the Egyptian-American lady who's a Girl Decoded author and very famous MIT alumni, etc., etc. So she'll be a wonderful speaker as well. Turning back to you, Carole, tell us about the people, the students that you've taught and seen and grow, and what you feel about our future, because I would like to end on a more positive note, and again going back to what Liselotte said, which is there is a talent shortage. Tell us about the talent that you see and foster.
Yeah. Well, I don't think there's a talent shortage in a way. Maybe there are less people on the market that are immediately usable, because companies usually need people, that are functioning actually in their system and in their organization. And sometimes they are just not fitting in, or, they request maybe different conditions which the company is not able to provide or, willing to offer. So my students, I don't think they are lacking talent at all, Maybe they are not exactly fitting the needs of the companies already, when they are finished with their studies. So I'm wondering if the organizations shouldn't consider changing and adapt actually to the talent of the people, because people are not less talented or less intelligent or whatever as they have been before. It's just not matching completely. And I see in a very practical way. If you have this international community which comes to Luxembourg, obviously it's a platform for them to operate on the European territory. They speak English, so if they have to operate here, they have the language barriers, which kind of is a big issue, so they can't really communicate on construction sites where there are mainly people that speak French or eventually German, so there are obstacles, and then you can say, okay, there's a lack of talent, or they kind of are trained in a different way to operate in a different way in terms of designing also. But companies, institutions, I mean, whether they are public or private, they need actually to address the idea of lifelong learning, integration and opening up. I mean, and it comes all down to the values in the end, because technology for me is a huge issue. I mean, especially in architecture, it's really, so much based on technologies. But at the same time, it's just the way, it's a mean. Before you need to have the purpose, or at least, I would say really a common set of values to function together. So, and how, what communities do we want to address? Is it really, the old European, strum, or do we want to integrate maybe, other types of communities as well? And how do we manage to reach out? And how do we manage to integrate and to actually mix? And, I think that's the big challenge. Yeah.
I really like what you're talking about there, and the fact that we have to match, the companies have to come towards the students, and perhaps the education system has to kind of find a way to integrate more with companies, which some people do quite successfully, but we can have it more and more. That's unique. I want to give the last word to you, Liselotte, in Denmark, joining us from Copenhagen. What is your final word before you join us in person next week in Luxembourg?
What's my final words? I was thinking about the precision age and housing, actually. So, for instance, we should all have our own individualist indoor climates, not too cold and not too warm, and not giving each other the COVID. And then we could turn off the heat wherever we are not in these houses and hall. So I think we're looking into a future where we have to be very clear on what is actually providing value and what is useless. Why should we have cars parked for 90% of the time rather than mobility? So really getting into that. And I think if people start having that mindset of where do we actually have an investment in the future that is getting the best out of people and the planet rather than pushing us like lemons, then I think we start all to speak the same language, and that's going to be really cool.
Well, to all of my guests today, Liselotte in Copenhagen, Kenny from near Glasgow in Scotland, now resident of Luxembourg, to Carole, and to Sasha, of course, you've been listening.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
And if you want to join me on Wednesday next week in Luxembourg, I'll be very happy to
absolutely. Wednesday next week in Luxembourg at the British Chamber of Commerce, you'll be giving your talk there, and we'll put a link to that in the show notes. Thank you all so much for your time. To all my dear listeners from wherever in the world you're listening from, I hope we've given you some food for thought for your weekend walk or cycle or anything that gets you out in the outdoors and now saves the government, according to Liselotte, a couple of euros in terms of health and various other things.
Exactly. And actually in Finland, they have found out that if you look at green stuff, I mean, trees and forests, it's even better.
Oh, absolutely. And they've finally figured out that if you put a few plants in hospitals, it makes you better quicker as well. So there's so much, which is another reason why I don't want the forests in Luxembourg to disappear anytime soon, because they're just my glorious space for me and my dog at the weekends. I wish you all a fantastic weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The Lisa Burke Show.